And just a heads up that these recordings I'm putting onto, I created a school platform, so all the masterminds we've done since the very beginning all are on there. And to get access to those, you just need to sign up into my school account. But I'll let you know how to do that. There's you don't need to pay for that access. So okay, great. So here we go. Let's go through our agreements again. Be curious, be respectful, be succinct, and get to the point. Show up to each session. This one here is this commitment is very important. Video on is preferred. I know a couple of people have their videos off ahead of time. They told me because they're like driving or whatnot. So that's fine. But video on is preferred because we want to kind of pretend as though we're all in the same space for real. And if you're in the room, then an AI note taker is fine. But if you're not in the room, please don't automate sending your AI to the meeting. It kind of misses the point. It just misses the point. And if you can advise on something, you have a take, a hot take, an insight, a question, whatever it happens to be, raise your hand on the app or just unmute or kind of do what you need to do on that side. Okay, so that's kind of the flow here. We'll talk about some updates, selected member highlights. We'll talk about our topic, which alternates. I'll do a little bit of a breakout today as well. We'll have some open questions and then some closing takeaways, and I'll set up the next date clarity for you guys at the same time. Okay, so yeah, these sessions are 90 minutes because we want to do a deeper dive. The hour was way too quick. It was like we were just flying through it, and by the time we got into some like meaty discussion, it was like the time was up. And so we've had some great conversations in that last 30, 40 minutes. I've got the community on WhatsApp, and then I've also got school. So if you just want to get regular kind of updates and some conversation and some networking, the WhatsApp group is kind of where you want to be. School is where all the recordings go, all the backlog goes. I like the platform. I think Hormozy did a great job with the platform. I like it. And I've got some other things that happen in there, but the main recordings all exist in school. What else is in there? Leadership psychology is in there. Sub $5 million group coaching's in there every week as well. Okay, so that's kind of what exists. So let's get some introductions here from some people. So just introduce yourself, your role, your business. Share a recent win in your business, and then share one of your most pressing challenges, and then put your contact in the chat email as well. Anyone in the room can put their contact information here, by the way. But after you speak, people might want to reach out for you. I want to build a network as we go here at the same time. Okay. All right. So, Conrad, welcome. Why don't you give us a rundown?
Yeah, just throw me right in there, eh?
Yeah, 100%,
I'm
man.
actually pretty
Sorry,
shy.
well.
I'm not good at talking. I'm sorry. I literally panicked when you're like, there's like 8 items I got to touch on. So tried to scribble them down. I'll go with what I remember. Conrad Jacob. I live in the Tri-Cities area. I'm a real estate investor and advisor for clients. I, I guess really quickly to summarize what I do is I do risk management for my clients to help them determine whether they're walking into green pastures or stepping on landmines in their investment journeys. And forgive me, what were some of the other questions?
A recent win in your business. Are you able to see the screen? Are you able to see the screen at all? I've got screen share going as here as well.
I'm on a crappy laptop, so I
Oh,
have a
okay.
limited screen view. I apologize.
Okay, that's all right. So a recent
Um,
win in your business.
a recent win. I just went through a recent loss about 5 minutes ago. So
Oh
that's a
no.
little bit different. Recent win. Lately, I've been helping a lot of people who've been stuck or in limbo, waiting to get in the market due to the what should I call it, turbulent kind of environment that we're in. I've been helping a lot of people get into the market now that there's a dent in the armor, so to speak. So yeah, I've been helping a lot of first-time home buyers jump into the market, generally speaking.
Okay, good. And what's a recent challenge or a high level challenge you're dealing with?
Uh, Communication, big picture and goal vision, helping people not get stuck on what's happening in front of them. So we just had a deal actually collapse, and it's maybe for the better. So the reason I'm able to be here is because yeah, we had a deal collapse in front of us where a client was buying an apartment building on the island, and they got stuck on the fact that the seller only wanted to offer 75% remediation cost, and they wanted 100% coverage. And after 2.5 weeks of tooth and nail negotiations, it blew up in my face about, yeah, 10 minutes ago. So
Oh, sheesh. Okay, so we're in live fire exercise here.
yeah, yeah, I might get a call. Who knows? Let's stay optimistic, right? But yeah, no, it comes with the territory, wins and losses.
Yeah.
Just gotta roll with it. So
All
that's
right,
that's me in
cool.
a nutshell. I hope I
All
covered
right.
everything.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah, put your contact information in the chat there as well.
For
Curtis,
sure. And
let's get you to roll in here. Tell us about you, your role, your business, recent win, most pressing
Yeah,
challenge.
my name is Curtis Thomas. I'm the owner of Warrior Plumbing. We are a mechanical contractor based out of North Vancouver. We have three departments: a small service department, a residential department doing from a bathroom renovation to custom homes, and then we have a multifamily commercial division that does like multifamily condo projects or small commercial projects. Um, what is this recent win in our business? We just had a bunch of swag delivered for the boys just in time for Christmas. That we'll hand out quite soon. One of our projects, we're doing a 50-unit condo building that we just got the roof on. So that's usually a milestone in construction, a rooftop party soon to come. And then a challenge, the most pressing challenge. Yeah, we're a small business and we're growing, and weakness or a need is our current overhead staff. We've never had an in-house project manager. It's been me. We've never had an in-house estimator. It's been me. So I think those are two positions that we know we need to hire sooner than later. So yeah, that's my challenge.
All right.
Contacts
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. Great.
info that are in the chat there. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay, fantastic. Well, I kind of want to get into the topic today. So thanks for introducing yourselves, you guys. Welcome to the community. We are talking about this outcome bias. Outcome bias. Anyone want to take a guess as to what outcome bias is?
Would it be when you're deciding what the outcome is because of past experiences and you immediately think you've already evaluated and processed it? So you say, I'm going to go with that's what's going to happen without actually having all the information?
Actually, that's a really good response. You're pretty close. It's a little bit more around this idea of. Does anyone else want to take a hit at this as well? We've done a lot of decision making work with Duncan, so he's actually preempted a little bit of what the bias part of the outcome bias is. So good job, Duncan. You're further ahead on the assessment of it. Anyone else want to take a stab at what outcome bias is? Okay, here it is. Who wants to read it off? Let's go, Colin. Why don't you give us a readout of this?
Sounds good. The human tendency to judge the quality of a decision based on the eventual result rather than on the quality of the decision-making process at the time it was made.
Yeah. Okay. So this is super common. So so there was a book that I was reading recently. Maybe a couple of you might have heard the story already, but it framed this idea of like, how often are we? I'm just going to I'm just going to pause the share here for a moment so we can kind of see each other better. Okay, so it shared this idea of like, we often judge the quality of our decision after the decision is made in reflection of whether it was good or not. And so, like, for example, in the book, it talks about this idea like, okay, so you've been given a job offer in Boston and you move to Boston and you love the job and you love the city. Good decision or bad decision? It's like most people would say, oh, it was a good decision. Okay, so let's say that you move to Boston and you hate the job and you hate the city. And people are like, oh, well, then it's clearly a bad decision. Okay, so then we add some complexity to it. Okay, you move to Boston, you love the job, you hate the city. It's too cold in the winter. well, maybe it's kind of a good decision then. And then we flip that. You hate the job, you love the city, you love the quality of it, the character of it, but the job sucks. Well, good decision, bad decision. What we're doing is we're saying because this outcome occurred, my decision was good or my decision was bad. This is a core flaw in decision making called outcome bias. And it's like we very seldom know what the outcome is going to be with 100% certainty on a decision when the decision is being made. So there has to be better decision-making process as opposed to it kind of like running in the opposite direction. So to kind of like share this, for example, I'm going to just sort of like create a quick little drawing here. Oops, no, not that. That one. Okay. Just gonna create a quick little drawing here. Okay, so here we go. Here's the decision. And then this is now the outcome coming. And what happens is that if the outcome is positive or negative, we then retroactively say whether the decision was good or not. It's like, man, you got to have better decision-making processes than that. And so then what happens is that sometimes you end up with decision makers who are like, oh, well, experience is the best teacher. Is it? Are you just going off of like kind of what happened? So, you know, what like poker players are like high-level poker players are definitely not doing this. They're for sure not doing this. Like, oh, my hand was good. It must have been a good call on the cards. Like, no, it's not. They didn't do that. They made a decision ahead of time based off of other criteria. And so we're making decisions all the time, every day, small, medium, large decisions. And so how do we do it? Okay. So this is a really, really common mistake that can happen in decision making. So you'll oftentimes see, nope, not that one. I don't want to share that one. I want to share this one. There we go. You'll see this response. I knew it. This is a common response from people who are very much aligned with outcome bias. If you ever hear someone say, I knew it, I would start to raise your flags on the quality of their decision-making. Because there's going to be a little bit of this, like, you'll only hear this when they're right. So like they could be right 20% of the time, but that 20% hits and they're like, I knew it. And they sound like they're really, really wise. And in fact, what's happening is that they actually just happen to be basing the fact that they were right because that is what happened. Some people frame this in teams in a very, very negative way, where they will forecast based off of their own personal biases. And if it's ever wrong, it never comes up again. But whenever they're right, for sure it gets raised. So it's like, oh, I don't really think this project's going to work out. They say that in a meeting. 3 months later, the project works out. You never hear them bring up the fact that they said, oh, I didn't think this project was going to work out, but it did. And I think that's good. They'll never say that. But if the project doesn't work out, they're going to go, I knew it. I called it 3 months ago. I said the project was not going to work out. It's like, don't be that person in the room. Okay. So there are multiple forms of outcome bias, and I'll show you some of them, and then we'll go through and break down each of them. Okay. So feel free to take some notes here. One is called the post hoc evaluation. I'll break these down for you guys. So we'll go into these in greater detail with some examples. Hindsight bias, risky betting bias, selective memory. That one's very self-explanatory in a lot of cases. Tragedy of the commons bias, moral luck. Okay, so these are different forms of what we would classify in the entire bucket of outcome bias. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one, post hoc evaluation. So this is judging a decision's quality after you know what happened, which makes you think it was better or worse just because of the results. So because the result was good, it must have been a good decision. Just because the result was bad, it must have been a bad decision. Now, if you're assessing your team, you got to be very careful against this as well, because you might have a team member who makes a really good decision and the outcome is bad. And what happens is that if you reprimand them for the decision, as opposed to trying to rectify the outcome, you're going to end up somewhat with someone who's going to want to make less decisions. So really, really important. So here's an example. Again, good outcome means it was a good decision. Bad outcome means it was a bad decision. Okay, this is very like low maturity, low evolved way of thinking. And our goal as leaders is to grow past this, level of post hoc evaluation. Anyone want to give an example of when you see this in relationships, like romantic relationships, especially? Yeah, we started dating. It's the best thing that ever happened. It's like, okay, because the relationship is good. And then the relationship turns bad, and you're like, no, you know what? We never should have started dating in the first place. Really? It's like, so the original decision has changed twice because of a difference in outcome that happened downstream. It's like it's, and then you start looking at this as how this is applied to business. You're definitely going to see it. Anyone want to share an example of when this occurred recently on their team? Anything coming to mind? Or in your personal life or somewhere along the way? Personal, professional? We'll come back to it. I'm throwing a lot at you. We'll come back to it. Okay.
I got an example for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't know if this happened recently, but I've often run into situations with staff where they, a customer, someone will come to them needing something, and then someone at a higher level than them, instead of just like giving them advice on how to deal with the situation for that customer or that issue, they kind of take control of the situation, and they've kind of set themselves up to be the go-to person for that customer or that client moving forward, because now they've kind of made a situation where they've lost faith in the other person because they couldn't deal with what they're asking them to do. So it's sort of, am I making any sense with what I'm saying?
Just expand on a little bit.
Or need more context?
Do you have video as well, David? Just so people can kind of maybe get a bit of a vibe off of what you're throwing.
Yeah, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Okay, so just expand on a little bit.
Yeah, so basically, like a customer will say, "Hey, you did a job for me, or I need this done," and instead of, so then the employee, who, say one of my employees, would come to their boss and say, "Hey, how do I deal with this?" And instead of the boss or the supervisor just giving that person advice on how to deal with the client, they're saying, they just call the client and deal with the situation.
Oh, okay,
so now
gotcha.
they've done two bad things. They've basically given the client the indication that they have poor confidence in their team, which is bad, and they've also made it so now that client just wants to deal with that person who's always constantly fixing their problems because they don't trust anybody else to do it. So it's sort of a double whammy. But.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha. So I would say that probably a little bit of this sort of decision making is coming in, because there's like this, this sort of like, oh, well, I'm always concerned about them having bad decisions on the other side, whatever happens to be. You're talking about this concept that I call skip. And for those of you who are working directly with me, you know that I am like the most anti-skip person on the planet. I'm like, that's a skip, and I will call that out as soon as possible. And a skip is like basically where someone takes charge of something further up the chain of command. And then you're never removing yourself as a choke point from there as well, which is a problem. Actually, Ty and I just had a really good conversation a little bit about how to decentralize this and test against it as well. Sylvain said in here, our sales model change. Yeah, like, okay, great. We want to change our sales model. You make the change, and then the result tells you whether the decision was good or not. It was like, well, hang on, no, maybe making a sales model change is a good decision. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really important, thing to kind of focus on. Okay, so here's the next one. This is a hindsight bias. And these are all somewhat kind of related, but I'm breaking them up and segmenting them a little bit, okay? So this one is thinking that events were easy to predict after they happened, which can actually change how we see past decisions. Well, of course it was going to play out that way. It's like, like the hindsight is 2020 kind of idea, except because you made the decision and the events were like so rapid to go, this happened, this happened, this happened. So the consequence of the decision was so clean that it was like, well, yeah, of course. But actually the decision-making process that was in front of it was not optimized, right? And so here's an example of what you hear. Yeah, I knew that would happen. Right. So, okay. I don't mind when someone says I knew that would happen if they use a key decision matrix. Anyone remember the key decision matrix that I talked about? Here's the decision, here's the expected outcome, and it's actually captured ahead of time. If the expected outcome and the actual outcome become the same thing, I will let you get away with the idea that would happen. But there's often a variance. The amount of times it hits 100% on target is really, really low, okay? So how can this tendency hurt our decision-making and respect as a leader? If we have hindsight bias as a leader, how do you think that can hurt either our decision-making or our respect? Anyone want to comment?
It removes trust because people can see right through that. If you haven't, it's kind of like playing a game of pool and you don't call your ball, but then it goes in, you're like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen, but you didn't, and they all know you didn't, and it was dumb luck. So it takes away that you've made a confident decision and showcase that upfront, like you said, with that decision-making matrix, where you're like, hey, putting it all out there, and then when it comes to fruition, you don't have to say I knew it. It's just everybody remembers. So I think it takes away that bit of trust.
Such a great example.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
That's you nailed it. Like I was trying to actually think of an example for this, and like I was like, oh man, that is a fantastic example. Where the luck of the ball going in, you're like, yeah, of course. Now it may have been true, but because you didn't call it ahead of time, it's like people are like, really? Yeah, 100%. And I've mentioned this before. I'll throw it in here again as a comment. I often say, don't try to motivate your team. Okay. Like if you're trying to motivate your team, you're doing the wrong thing. Leadership comes with inspiration and influence. Motivation comes from the person. Now you may have systems to help motivate what they already are motivated by, but you can't motivate them. You only have to know what motivates them. But the ability to demotivate the team is super easy. So a leader has a 0% chance of motivating someone and a 100% chance of demotivating someone. So if you want a 100% chance of demotivating someone, start using hindsight bias in your regular leadership communication. And I guarantee you your demotivation will occur exponentially, which is the wrong way that you want it to happen. Okay. So yeah, really, really, really great example. Okay, so this is probably one of the best decision makers that has ever existed in our recent history, Daniel Kahneman. Does anyone know Daniel Kahneman? I mentioned him once before in a meeting. I didn't have his quote up, but I had a once before meeting with him. So this quote is fantastic. The worse the consequence, the greater a hindsight bias. Okay. It's like, yeah, we knew all these things were going to happen when we made the decision, and we still made the decision. It's like, really? So you knew it? Are you sure? It's like it's a destroyer of whatnot. Daniel Kahneman lived till I think around 1992 or late 80s. It was something like that. He lived for a very long time. Very interesting story, but he was considered one of the most optimal decision makers that we've ever experienced. Now, he also made a really, really serious decision on when he was going to stop living, but it was not emotional. Like like it's not even considered a like that he like killed himself. It's not even a consideration, because it was like he was like, yeah, this is happening, and he was like super open about it. And you know, he had some failing health issues and a few other things going on. But if you want to do some interesting reading, go read a little bit about Daniel Kahneman. It's fantastic. Really, really, really powerful. Okay, let's continue. Risky betting bias. When people judge choices in gambling or risky situations only by whether they won or lost, not by why they made those choices. So again, coming back to the poker analogy, I won, so it was a good decision. I lost, it was a bad decision. Ty, you're really good at poker. The amount of times that you're actually making a decision, it might have been the good decision, but it still didn't turn out well, is probably reasonably high, right?
Yeah, extremely.
Yeah.
It's definitely more, again, great analogy on that one, because it's, I think, really about the framework of the decision making, right? Like, how often do I think I'm right? It's going to statistics in that frame. So it's something that I've actually never looked at to actually transition into how I run my business, which I probably should be doing with decision making for sure. I've got some big ones coming up. So yeah.
So here's a simple example. I ran the red light. I made it, no problem. Good decision. It's like, I wouldn't do that consecutively on your ride driving to work. It's probably not the wise decision. So now make that red light a metaphor for something in your business where you're just happening to get by running all these red lights in your business. And you just happen to have made it through multiple of them. It's probably not going to be that way long term, right? So does that mean that all red lights should be run? Key question, right? So was a wise decision? Probably not a wise decision to run a red light. Okay. Just because you made it doesn't mean that it's the thing that you should do. Okay. So where is that proverbial red light in your business? If you looked at the last 3 months of some key decision making, where was this? Maybe it's a process. You know what? Yeah, you know what? We always get by with that process. Man, that process might break. No, but it hasn't broken yet. We're good. Oh no, you know what? This leader, because we have this check and balance system, this leader hasn't made a critical failure yet. But you haven't actually addressed the seed of the problem. Oh yeah, no, but it's okay because it hasn't gone wrong yet. That's a proverbial red light. You got to be proactive in that case. Okay. All right, selective memory. Remembering success is better than failures, or for the for the negatively biased people, failures versus successes. Okay, so they flip it, which can make us think our past decisions were better or worse than they really were. No, I always make good decisions here, man. It's good. Eternal optimist. They always reflect back on only the positives. Or the eternal pessimist. It's like, you know what? This person never makes good decisions. Never. So I want you to watch for one thing in your own language and in the language of your team members. And these are superlatives. These are the everything, always, nevers, like these absolute statements. They are often, see how I said often? They are often a sign of someone who has poor selective memory. So it's like, what are they focusing on? And whatever they focus on can lead them on either becoming too optimistic. Like I always say, you don't want an optimistic bridge builder, right? Like you want him to check his math. You know what I mean? It's like, go check your math. It's like there's a line there, right? I want an optimistic nurse and a pessimistic doctor. Those are two different things. Because I want the doctor to go, this could go sideways. What can I do to control it? I want the nurse to come in and say, hey, by the way, we think you're going to get a good outcome here. That's a good yin yang of this. But selective memory is very, very important. So you'll hear stuff like this. You know what? We always figured out. This is like a common saying. Or the negative, these things never end well. Right. Every time we work with this client, it always turns out bad. Holy bananas. How many absolute words were in that sentence? Okay, which times? For those of you who work with me, you'll hear me say, hang on, let's slow this down. Which times? Which client? Which person in particular amongst that client? Where in the project did it go sideways? What decision was made during that process? Like it's like, and I'm not necessarily trying to solve your operational problem. I'm trying to solve your thinking about the problem. So it's very, very important. So what's your tendency? Eternal optimist or entrenched black hat doomsayer? Which one are you? I know a bunch of optimists in this room, but how many of you guys think I'm an optimist? Put up your hands. Absolutely not. I am actually not an optimist. What I am is encouraging.
I was optimistic that you were an optimist, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm actually on the low end of optimism on my trait emotional intelligence. I like to check. I just don't make noise about when I'm checking. Now, I need to be counterbalanced by someone who says, hey, this will probably be fine. And that becomes a good balance point. But I normally check, and I normally check in a very sort of like fast, are you sure? How many of you guys have heard me say, are you sure? Optimists tend not to say, are you sure? Right. And so I'm more on that side. Now, it doesn't mean I'm a negatively biased person. So I would say I'm more on the pessimistic, let me check side of things with the vision of a positive outcome. So like there's a difference here between having vision and being a pessimist. Being a pessimist is like straight up, I don't think there's a positive vision in the future. I like to see a positive vision in the future and then check the steps that are going to lead to that vision. So I know that about me. And so I build systems and structures in my business and within what I see within people on the team to go, where does that exist? What's their default? And so where do you sit on this spectrum? If you had to put yourself on a scale of -10, 0 to +10, -10 meaning I am completely entrenched black hat doomsayer, all the way to +10 to massive optimist, and 0 somewhere in between, where would you put yourself? I want just write it down somewhere. Put yourself on there and ask yourself, is that working for me? Is that working for me? And do I have too many optimists? Or not enough optimists on my team? So like I would make this look something like this. It's about to pop up in a second. I'd make it look something like this. Where are you on this scale? I would put myself probably somewhere around here. But I have a vision of this. But my behavior exists here. What's yours? I don't know. Maybe someone's here, in which case you got to look back pragmatically and sort of deal with this selective memory issue. Okay. All right, we're going to keep rolling here because I want to get through this part, then we're going to have some conversation about it. Tragedy of the commons bias. It's like, sounds like a Shakespeare play or something. Okay, in cases where resources are shared, people might form biased opinions about their own choices based on whether the results helped or harmed everyone. Okay, so this is like sort of a selfishly, well, if I don't have the ability to do this, then the project will fail. Or, you know, it always has to do with how much time, supplies, and resources this person has to ensure that it will deliver. These people are resource hogs in a business. They will oversupply themselves in order to, because we know the team can't do it. So it's always been me. And they're generally putting the team at the expense of their own success. Now, there's something I talk about when it comes to leadership. You're filling yourself as a leader so that you can fill other people. Now, until you filled yourself as a leader, your ability to fill other people is low. But there has to be a tipping point. It can't just be self-serving for you over and over and over and over again. Well, I've learned so much as a leader. How many leaders have you built? Oh, I haven't. Okay. This person, tragedy of the commons bias type person, is like they're so self-centered that they never look at the larger entity. I talked about this one time when we were talking about protectionism around a role. If you have a leader on your team that is protecting their role, they are less effective than someone who is providing value from the role that they're in. It's like, oh, I got promoted. I need to protect my role as a divisional manager. I got promoted. I need to protect my role as a CEO. I got promoted. I need to protect my role as the head of sales. No, you were given that role to fulfill something. Those who start to protect their role. Now, the same thing can happen from a client relation as well. Oh, I got this really great client. I need to protect my business so I don't ever lose this client. Man, just give more value to the client. Stop worrying about how you yourself need to protect it and give more value. It'll work out. So if this is sort of the thought pattern, this tragedy of the commons bias, that sort of like flawed way of thinking can occur. This is a great quote from Ray Dalio. Know when not to have an opinion. Super, super important quote. He also goes on to say, I don't care if the right answer comes from me. Now, for those of you who know, when I was like operating restaurants and whatnot, I used to tell people, I'd be like, guys, I don't care if it's like the dishwasher who just showed up and they've never worked their life in a restaurant and they have a phenomenal idea and they've been here for 3 days. It's the idea that matters. It's not the role. Like, I don't care if the right answer comes from me. If you have that mindset, I don't care if the right answer comes from me, guess your decision making goes up, because you're gonna have other people be able to make decisions in your business. You will never remove decision-making power and decentralize and empower your team if you are always having to have the idea come from you. It just won't happen. There's a couple other things I want to highlight here from Ray Dalio as well. Okay, so this is like a core principle of his. Recognize that the biggest threat to good decision making is, one, harmful emotions. So not using the emotions as data, but just running with the emotion before anything else has happened. And two, that you're not using a decision-making two-step process. So what's the two-step process? Two-step process is this. I will again go to this. I'll change this to white. First one is easy. Learn before you decide. Okay, so now don't get this confused. If you front load your learning, guess what happens to the speed of your decision making? It goes up, right? If you front load your learning, the speed of your decision making will go up. If you're always leaving your learning at the time when a decision is going to be made, you're going to probably lean on one of those outcome bias categories instead. So you have to learn before that comes up. Okay, and it doesn't matter how that knowledge is acquired. Conversation, mentor, coaching, peers, weekly team meeting, podcast. It doesn't matter. It's out there. You can learn about it. Now here's another key thing about deciding. First part is learn. The second part is actually deciding. But I want to break this apart a little bit. Deciding, and is what Ray Dalio talks about, it's a process of choosing what knowledge you need to draw on. Oh, hang on a second. So deciding is not actually actioning the thing. No. Your first step in your actual decision is in choosing the relevant information. Some people introduce so much irrelevant information to their decision making that they end up with analysis paralysis. Other people don't bring in enough relevant information. So this balance point is super, super important. Then you weigh that to determine the course of action. Okay. The last one is moral luck, which is judging something more harshly or kindly based off of the outcome. So this is about intention. Like, if someone meant ill, but it turned out well, was it a good decision? You know what I mean? Or if someone meant well, but it turned out poorly. So, this is like a balance of intention versus outcome. Now, you got to be clear that intention is not excuse. It's very important to be clear that intention is not excuse. But you don't want to go into this mindset of being like, well, they failed on their project, so clearly they don't care about the company. And so therefore they should never get my trust again. That's dangerous. Right? Let's take an extreme example. Doctor makes the right call, still loses the patient. Yeah, it was the right call. No, you must be a terrible doctor. No, it's not. So we will have all of these sort of complexities in when we're making business decisions, how those business decisions are being made. It's very, very important to understand this. If your trust with a team member is impacted in the wrong direction, you're going to end up centralizing your command, and your team is going to become gun shy, and then that's going to justify your inability to give more trust to your team. Does that make sense? Okay, so there is actually a whiteboard I want to bring up here as well. I'm kind of throwing a lot at you guys, so feel free to just interrupt and just bring. Where did it go? Where did it go? What did I name it? I named it something. Ah, here it is. Impulsive versus non-impulsive. Okay. All right. You guys are able to see this? This whiteboard? Yep. Okay. I'm just going to move it around here really quickly to a larger screen. Okay, there we go. Okay. So let's look at some different biases when it comes to decision making. Okay. So this is someone with low impulse control. This is someone with high impulse control. And here's a balanced approach. So low impulse control, they consider what the decision is, they make the decision point, and then the event happens. Now, the benefit of this is that if you have a long tail of outcome, you can make another decision afterwards and raise the result because you've given yourself more time. Now, if you don't have a long tail of outcome, this can become quite dangerous, especially if it's a legacy impact and there's no other decisions that can be made on the other side. With high impulse control, you have a longer consideration time. This is someone who will really think about something for a long period of time, make the decision, and now the event happens. Now, the thing here is that they have less time to adjust the outcome to the end state, if this is end state over here. So there's different things to do here. Now, sometimes you end up with this sort of perfect scenario, but rarely. You consider it, you make the decision, and before the decision triggers, there's a gestation period where you can make adaptations before the event happens, and then you just live with the outcome. But you got to decide. Some require low impulse control decision making where you have to adapt on the other side of it. Some require high impulse control because the legacy of the outcome does not have the ability to change later. And some allow you a bit of leeway and stretch, right? Like a deposit structure where you get some money back if you don't want to move forward, et cetera, et cetera. That would be more tempered impulse control. So I tend to lean on the low impulse control because I have high levels of confidence in my ability to adapt the outcome based off wherever it lives. But not with all things. With some things, I'm like, can someone else make the call here? Because I don't know if I can do that, or I need more information, or who has insight. So where does this exist for you? Okay. So these are all factors when it comes to decision making, and outcome bias is the thing that is going to kind of rush you to becoming more effective at this. Okay, so before we go into a breakout here, I'm gonna give a little summary here. So let's go with who can read that? Colin, you're our narrator today. I'll read it and I'll click the next part.
Okay. Decision making cannot be based solely on the outcome to measure the quality of the decision.
Okay, after everything I've said, do we agree? Okay.
We seldom know with 100% certainty what the outcome is before the decision is made. This tendency on outcome bias results in slow decision making, poor lead up process, and deeply held conscious and unconscious fear based responses to critical priorities.
Okay. So I know some people who just can't make a decision. I know other people who make decisions and I'm like, that sounded risky. Like, oh no, it worked out. Okay, so there's like this extremes between what's going on. If you're in a controlling decision-making power role in your company, improve your decision-making skill and ability. Okay. So here's some tips on how to make this happen. I'm not going to leave you hanging. Here are some tips on how to make this happen. One, let's call it the pre-mortem. We oftentimes do post-mortems. How often do we do a pre-mortem? Okay. One is this decision-making key metric. What is the desired outcome from the decision? This simple question, answered in a monthly, a quarterly, a weekly, a tactical meeting, an ops meeting, whatever happens to be, someone brings up something, like, what are you hoping to achieve from this decision? Sometimes the fog of the response is really important. Some of you guys know I have this great question that was presented to me, and I've used it a handful of times. What is it you want to be right about? For someone who's being super obstinate about their stance on the decision. Cool, man. You seem really passionate about this. What is it you want to be right about? The method or the outcome? Well, I want to do it my way. Okay, what are you hoping to get from doing it your way as the output? If they can't answer that question, then you have to dive deeper and spend more time on it. But what is the desired outcome? Next one, map scenarios of what can happen. Really great CFOs, this is actually what they do. They say, if we did this, if we bought this, if we acquired this, if we merged here, these are all the different scenarios of what could happen. This company is growing. If we bought this company, this is what would happen. These are the probabilities, blah, 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 blah. However, if you built this and then this and this and on and on and on, right? When I'm working with you guys, I am constantly mapping scenarios of what can happen. Org chart development, leadership development, what's going on with your business structure, what are your priorities, what are the outcomes, what are your road mapping, all this stuff is going on. We're mapping the potential of what could happen. So your ability to make really good decisions has to be based off this idea. And then you say, what are the probabilities of these outcomes? Right? Remember Doctor Strange in the Avengers finale? Where he's like, oh, he comes back, he's like, oh no, we have to do this one path. It's because he mapped all the potential outcomes. Okay. Multiple timelines. Okay. While Marvel Universe was still good. Create a what if. So now this comes down to this idea of second and third order of consequence. So, okay, if we make the decision, here's the most likely outcome. Here's the secondary outcome. Here's the third outcome. Okay, great. Because of this first outcome is likely, the second step of that outcome might be this. Well, what if that happens? Then we would do this. But what if that happens? Then we would do this. What if that happens? Then we would do this. Okay, great. Sometimes you got to go layers deeper. Right? Okay, so we want to hire this key person in our team. We want to promote this key person in our team. Okay, great. What is the desired outcome? Well, we would like them to do this, this, and this in the business. Great. What happens if they succeed? then this will occur. Okay, well, what happens if they don't succeed? Well, then we'll do this. What happens if they kind of succeed? Well, then we'll kind of do this. What happens if they succeed here, but not here? You got to think about it. Don't get stuck in it, but you got to think about it. So
Can I say
consider
something about
yeah,
the what if map?
yeah,
That's where you have to be very careful that you're not too much of an optimist and you're not too much of a black hat as well. Because if
yes.
you're showcasing these maps to your team and you're always thinking that, oh, what if, but it's always a good thing, and you
Mhm.
don't highlight the both, then that can be really confusing. And that's training someone else to think, oh, like, and they'll be quite disappointed if it doesn't work out that way as well.
Yep, great point. Totally agree. 100% agree. Consider the probabilities of the outcome. What's the likelihood they will succeed? Here, what's the likelihood of this turning out like this versus like this? Now, the difference between something going from like, say, 45% to 55% is still in the 50-50 flip of a coin scenario. Anyone watch the new Catherine Bigelow movie on Netflix, House of Dynamite? Okay. After this session, sometime in the next week or 2 weeks, watch that movie. Some people really struggled with that movie. I loved it, and I'll tell you why I loved it. Because the movie is exactly what we're talking about. It is 100% saying, what decisions can you make knowing what you know? That's functionally what the movie's about. And as an audience member, we actually know more than subjectively what the characters in the movie have available to them as information. And if you consider everything we're talking about today, and you watch that movie, House of Dynamite, and on top of that, Distillery VFX did 100% of the VFX for the entire movie. So big kudos to Distillery. So really, really great. And then you got to consider, what are the probabilities of this outcome? Okay. 5, consider which decision will get you to the desired outcome with the highest probability. that's functionally it. And if you kind of follow this 5-step map of a pre-mortem, you're going to end up with better decisions in your business, your next critical move, your next client engagement, your next priority initiative, whatever happens to be. And here's the thing, if you actually take the time and map it, like if you actually take time, I don't care how you do it, spreadsheet, Trello board, it doesn't matter. Like whatever system you've got for capturing information in your business. We often capture the financial data on the far end of stuff and then reflect backwards and say, oh, that's really what happened with the cost of goods on that particular thing. Oh, we probably made some bad decisions. No, get ahead of it. Spend as much time creating a decision map as you do creating a post financial KPI outcome map. And I guarantee you, your outcomes will be better. It can't not. It's just not possible. Okay, so I'm going to dump you guys into some breakout rooms. Your assignment A, someone in the team in the breakout room, bring up a real world decision that had a positive outcome. State how the decision was made and be quick about it. Like, don't be like, if it was a 20-minute decision, don't spend 20 minutes trying to explain it. Like, try to explain how the decision was made. It was a team decision, it was whatever. And then given what we know about outcome bias, was it the right decision at the time that you made it? And then have a quick little discussion about it. Okay, so that's going to be breakout room number 1. I'll bring you guys back, and I'm going to give you breakout room number 2 assignment after that. Okay, so and I just want to make sure. So there's a couple of people in here who are not able to speak, I don't think. David, you're able to talk, so that's good. Sylvan, are you able to speak in the breakout room? I'll throw you in them anyways, but I just want to make sure that there's the correct amount of
Hey, Ed.
Yep.
I'm gonna end up back on the road, and I've got my mom and my brother with me. But I just wanted to add one thing before we hit the road.
Okay.
About outcome bias. As a new business owner, that can literally take you out, because if you rely on only outcomes, there's so much accelerated learning that goes on as a business owner that if you look back at only outcomes and go, oh, that was a bad decision, that was a bad decision, you will literally go out of business, because every decision will be literally a deal breaker, right? It'll be your success or your failure. So that was one of the hard lessons I learned in the first 6 months, especially. So this is really helpful to just hear all of this and go, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh, I've been that person. I've been that business owner. So I just wanted to add that before I get back on the road.
Yeah, 100%. That's great. Are you going to stay on audio, or are you going to log off?
I'll be listening, but I won't be able to be in the breakout room.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me just quickly see who's going where. Hang on, I'm going to recreate this because it's automatically putting the AI all together. So unless someone wants to just speak to a bunch of AIs, then then good luck. We'll okay, let's go with here, and then I'm gonna go.
How much time, Edwin?
I'll give you guys 5 minutes on it. Yeah, I'll give you guys 5 minutes on it. Actually, I might just end up making this 2 rooms instead. I think I'm going to make it 2 rooms instead. Just because of that, it'll make it a little bit cleaner and give a little bit more dynamic conversation. Yeah, sorry, just bear with me for a second here while I make this. Okay, there we go. 2 rooms. Yeah, 5 minutes, and we'll see you back here, and then I'll get some feedback from you guys on it. Curtis, David, let me know if you can pop into those rooms. Yeah, okay, good. I'm going to pop you into a room here, Simone. Okay, good.
So I just
let me start playing. Okay, so just coming back to this this idea of, did we make the decision based off of criteria ahead of time, or did we assume that the decision was good because of what happened on the long tail? Is super important. So I was talking to our crew in our room about make sure you're having these conversations with your team at large. Like, take it to them and say, hey, how do we actually make decisions, and what's that decision-making criteria, and are we doing it? This whole idea of deciding is actually choosing relevant information, I think, is very important. And then what I want you to do is a bit of homework. And we're not going to do it as a breakout today because I don't think there'll be enough time to cover it. As a bit of homework, I want you to think about the opposite scenario. Think about a decision that had a negative outcome. How did you make that decision? And was it actually still the right decision, even though it had a poor outcome? So I'm going to share with you guys a story. This is someone that I had spoken to beginning of this year. They're a small business. They're local, and they wanted to talk to me about a little bit of brand like how their brand was being represented in the market. Very, very niche industry. And so I had this conversation with the owner and I said, hey, listen, okay, great. Yeah, you know what? Like, let's just do a brand assessment. And like, it wasn't a long engagement. It was just a really quick look at like, a bit of advisory on how their brand was representing. And I saw major flaws in the brand. One of them was that the brand actually presented this idea of security, but there was actually some like icons in the brand that made you feel not safe. So like, and I'll allude a little bit. So effectively, like it was a brand that was going to help develop children's learning skills. But the brand had these waves in it that looked like shark fins. And the idea of serenity was with water. And I'm like, I think you're sending the wrong message. And so they made some quick changes. And then the other thing is, I said, I don't think you have a solid marketing plan. I said, I think if you get a solid marketing plan, you'll see your business propel. Now, I didn't have a long-term engagement with this client. And so they were like, okay, cool, whatever. I said, yeah, let me know if you want to do anything more robust, but this is kind of where that engagement would end. And I saw a post recently, and they are closing twice a week. So I messaged them and I said, hey, I saw your online post. You're closing twice a week. They're like, yeah, actually, we're going out of business in December. And I'm like, what was your marketing plan? And they're like, oh, no, we never developed it. Okay. You want to look at the worst case scenario of not making a decision map of not creating a marketing plan versus creating a marketing plan. And the worst case scenario of any business going out of like not being able to run is no cash flow because you don't have a sales pipeline. It's like if you just went through and did the probability of outcome, the whole scenario could have turned around. That business would probably not be going out of business or would have had a better opportunity to have succeeded. I don't know. But I can tell you with all certainty that the decision to not create a marketing plan was a massive mistake. It was completely built on this idea of goodwill. Like I believe in it so much, right? Okay, so what were some of the takeaways in the session as a whole, plus your breakout rooms? Who wants to? This is just open mic now.
I'll go ahead. I think definitely some of these 5 items that are kind of on the essential list of mapping and creating your stated outcomes. I think a lot of us probably do it up here, but actually putting it somewhere for your team to show and doing it with, intention towards your next move, and then perhaps reflecting on something that, just like you said, our homework is to go over a poor outcome that ended in, the right decision. If it's the right decision, it was a bad outcome, but it wasn't the wrong decision. And saying, hey, look, this didn't work out, but that was still the right decision. I would do that again. And then with going forward, being able to sort of roll through this. And I guess the thing in my mind was like, what do I want to influence out of those 5 right out of the gate, immediately, like walking out of this meeting today? Hey, because I have an example from being on the phone an hour before this on someone wanting me to make a decision along with them. And I'm going in my head, I'm like, you haven't done this, you haven't done this, you haven't done this. It was exactly what you said. Like, you're just trying to make a quick decision and get it off your plate, but it's not been evaluated. So my optimistic side and my low impulse control make me normally want to do that, but lessons have taught me that you need to slow it down and give yourself some time to create that space and map it.
That's huge. I love it. And I love that you're making immediate relevance between what we kind of talked about to a situation that you're now going to go fix like right out of the gate. That's fantastic. Huge.
I just realized something pretty groundbreaking. Um, so I process. You use the word process at the beginning of the meeting here, and I was like, yeah, we live and die by process. I realized I have a process for my transactions. I have a process for when like we have the ball and we have to get it across the line. We don't have a process for decision making. Like like it's earth shattering to me that I just like I don't think about how I think before. Like how do I decide how to get certain things to a certain place? I think it was Tyler made me realize that like yeah, through experience, I know that consistency and sticking with something is the way to go. But he picked up one term. Tyler, what was that term that you wrote down that I totally fell in that category?
Selective bias from past experiences.
I'm literally the walking definition of that. And it's pretty eye-opening to realize it because yeah, it's just kind of like this optimistic outlook. And I mean it works, but it's like to your point, it's kind of like the red light thing. It's like, yeah, you just gotta keep going because like, you know, you'll get through a couple of them at least and it gets you somewhere, but it's not probably the path of the correct path to be taking, right?
Hmm.
So I got some work to do.
That's great. I love it. Yeah, there was a leader that historically um, made really, really bad decisions. And I asked them about how they made decisions. They said, well, I think experience is the best teller. And I'm like, I think you got to be a little bit more critical than that because
Hmm.
your experiences are going through a filter of your underlying belief system. And so I'm like, you know, you're basically framing whether you liked or didn't like as your future state decision making. And so it is very important to kind of unpack how do we make decisions. I think that's a great takeaway.
Hmm.
Yeah, who else?
Right.
Yeah, I agree with Sylvan. Great insight.
Yeah, I think um, similar to Duncan, you're doing this subconsciously. You know, we have these decisions that we make that are like, you know, very low impact type decisions. And then, you know, right now I just, after, you know, spending this last hour and a little bit, I just realized like how many major decisions I'm currently making in my business right now. And some, like I'm analyzing a potential investment project that's like, you know, $100 million project if we go into it. And so the decision making that goes into that, like it's very detailed, it's very information heavy on the front end versus like something that's like, you know, a quick decision that you're maybe helping a team member with, or you have to make like, you know, we don't have some decisions, we don't have the abundance of time to do that. So you're making decisions based on past experience, especially in the construction world. Like, you know, as a project manager, you're kind of going like, I know that we're going down the wrong direction on that, or hey, based on the last time we did this, we had major issues with that. So you're going to be using that from time to time. What we're struggling with as a company right now is now we've got a lot of younger people that we're bringing up through the company that don't have the experience. So what we have to do is start getting their decision making to be more on framework, right? Me and Edwyn and a couple of our team, we did an exploration on this, and we kind of roadmapped something basic out for our guys, just to sort of think like in a process mapping of it, like I can make that decision because I've got the experience, whereas they need to think, okay, what's step number one? Do we have the budget? Does it allow for that in the budget? Yes. Okay. Now it goes down into, is that a part of our scope? Yes or no, right? So it's the framework in which you're setting things up for team members. It's, you know, like again, it's as a growing business, it's now more about creating framework for the company as a whole, as well as yourself, right? To really make sure that the overall decisions are kind of, you know, setting the company up for success, right? So very, very insightful today. I can't, express that enough. So,
yeah, very good. Thanks, Ty. Anyone else want to jump in with a comment there? Okay, so here's a key question for you. If you got better at decision making, would it improve your business?
Of course.
All right, so fantastic.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know my mic was on.
No, I love that your mic is on. If you relied less on outcome bias, would you spend more time and focus on your decision-making process as opposed to the faith of outcome bias? Right now, I guarantee you there's a lot of faith in our outcome bias that is influencing our decision making. If we become better at critically thinking through our decision making, we will have better outcome bias. So, I'll share with you a sort of closing thought here. You know, when I was going through my sales and marketing program, I didn't know if it was going to work, and I created scenarios. Okay, if this works, and it is absolutely a propellant, what happens if there's way too much input and I don't have capacity to deal with it? What do I do then? What happens if it's like crickets? What do I do then? What happens if it's like sort of like optimal according to what my goals and objectives are? Okay, what do I do then? What happens if it's suboptimal? How much room do I have for adjustment? What happens then? What happens if my ROI is on point or positive? What happens if my ROI is not? And the budget I've allocated towards it doesn't work. All of these scenarios I decided on before I spent the money on the program. Then I came across a big roadmap, and then there was a big roadblock. And it was like, okay, then there was a decision. What do I do relative to this roadblock? Navigated that, made a really good decision. But none of it was based off of like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to do this thing because I have to do this thing. And then on the other side of it, oh, it kind of worked out here, but it didn't kind of work out there. So would I, wouldn't I, whatever. It's like, no, you got to think way ahead of the process to make that happen. And it's actually relaxing, because then you just work the plan of your decision as opposed to constantly trying to figure out what's happening along the way. And it's actually relaxing to get into that. You know, I would recommend this book, Principles by Ray Dalio. Really, really great book. A couple of the quotes I pulled out of there as well. And we'll keep on keeping on. So next session is December 19th. So it'll be the week before the Christmas holidays. We run businesses, so we show up and we continue to do the thing. So that's the thing. So December 19th will be the next one. If you feel like wearing a Santa hat, feel free to do so on the call. Outside of that, for some of you, I'll see you guys in a few days, or in the case of Colin, I'll see you in about 30 minutes. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
yeah, happy Friday.